Hello and welcome to yet another very exciting episode of Eye on the Money, the television show that gives you insights into how to improve your financial well-being as well as make your money work for you. I'm Ingrid Nantege. Now on today's show, we're going to discuss women in agribusiness and the opportunities available. We're continuously seeing more concerted efforts towards promoting equitable participation and opportunities for African women in development, particularly in agriculture and agribusiness, where women remain largely marginalized. According to the Gender Forum on Women in Agribusiness, there's now an increased emphasis by both public and private institutions towards more focus on women empowerment in the agricultural sector. The African Union's June 2014 Malabo Declaration on Accelerated Agricultural Growth and Transformation, for example, includes a commitment to reduce poverty in Africa by 50% by the year 2025 through, among other measures, supporting and facilitating the preferential entry and participation of women and youth in gainful and attractive agribusiness opportunities. Women-owned agribusinesses in the country, however, continue to face a myriad of challenges. And Invest in Africa, together with African Women Business Network, have stepped in to address the existing gaps that are currently facing women in agribusiness. I'm very excited because joining me on the show today is none other than Wangeshi Muriuki, Country Manager, Invest in Africa, Kenya. Thank you very much for joining us, Wangeshi. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ingrid.
Always a valuable addition to Eye on the Money.
Thank you.
So if we're to get right into the flesh of it all, I like to start by just creating a picture of the situation of whatever topic we're discussing. So now that we're talking about women in agribusiness, currently in Kenya, what's the status? What does it look like for women-owned agribusinesses in the country?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ingrid. So we are talking about women in agribusiness. First of all, let me start by stating that agriculture is an integral part of our economy, not just in Kenya, but also in Africa. You know, we are in millions who have to be fed every day. And therefore, this is a huge, an integral part of our economy. And I would say that, say 60% of our population is employed by the sector, and women make up half of the Kenyan farmers. You know, in the continent, women produce 90% of all the food. So you can only imagine, they are the primary growers, they are the processors, you know, they participate in all the end-to-end value chain activities, and therefore they play a vital role in Kenya's economic development. Now, in Kenya, again, you know, the majority of the women in agriculture and agribusiness live in the rural areas where, I mean, some are in extreme poverty, and yet they still engage in agribusiness, maybe for subsistence. A few of them try to undertake commercial agriculture. And if we are talking about the state, there are very many issues. You know, we are all Africans, we are Kenyans, and we know what our cultural issue and our cultural context really is. First and foremost, look at access to land. You know, women, they produce, but they don't own the land. Actually, 90% of the land which they are farming, you know, talking about women farmers, is owned by the men. So their ownership is just about 1% of land, which means that they lack ownership in security, and therefore that locks them out of very many opportunities. And then the other challenge I would cite is access to funding or access to finance. Women are generally less experienced in working with credit organizations and the institutions, so they need a lot of support around that. Extension services, for you to be a good farmer, you need very close support. through extension services. You need technical implements. So they need all this modern equipment. Today we are farming with harvesters, we are farming with cultivators, with plows, and all these other things. And unfortunately, most of the women do get locked out of that. Now, talk about infrastructure. It's one thing to grow your produce, it's another thing to get it, to move your produce from the farm to the shelf or to the gate. And there are so many challenges for the women accessing transport. There are a lot of inefficiencies. So they are not as mobile because they are farming, but yet they have to take care of their children. They have to take care of their families. The other issues, productivity. For a farmer, productivity is very important. The yield, how much you're able to produce, the crop yield, the quality of that yield. So all these factors do affect the women. But talking about the state, we are looking at more than half being the women, and so they are playing a huge, huge role.
Wangeshi, you've done a brilliant job with explaining to us the fact that women are actually really involved in agribusiness. Their contribution is irrefutable. However, they still are not facilitated enough. However, they still continue to struggle, and in a way that still affects their output. The question then is, in terms of intervention, in terms of work that needs to be done to address these challenges, and this is even before we go to the amazing initiative that Invest in Africa is doing. What sort of interventions are currently available that women can take advantage of, if any? What have we seen the government or whoever is responsible do towards this front that maybe that woman in the rural area who might not know can actually take advantage and improve themselves in agribusiness?
Okay, there are very many initiatives. I must commend efforts of private sector and also the efforts of the private sector through our government. And I must say that in the recent past, we've seen more investments that are focused on supporting women in agriculture, women in the rural markets, women in agribusiness, but that's just not enough. Let's start with our government. The access to government procurement opportunities, AGPO. That is a low-lying fruit for any woman who is in business and also women in agribusiness, because this is a policy. It came via an executive order, and so women need to take advantage of that. However, they need to be compliant if they have to access supply chains of the public institutions. That is one of them. Another one is that there is a lot of efforts towards lending to women. Look at banks, Equity Bank, and other banks like Stanbic that we partner with. Stanbic Bank in particular have the Dada Women Initiative that is all aimed at improving and increasing access to finance for the women. And there are many other organizations on the ground with youth and women initiatives, so which arise out of the investments. We've also seen programming shifting towards supporting women and youth. So one of the things that these women can do is to join networks that have women, networks like Invest in Africa's network, the AWAN network, Africa Agribusiness Women Initiative of Africa, where they can be supported, they can be incubated, they can access more and more information on the opportunities. So they are there on the ground, but I must still say that this is not enough. We need to do a lot more. We need more collaboration. Yes.
I'm so glad you somehow dragged the youth into this conversation, because I feel like it's also very important. In fact, when I was doing a bit of research, I came across data that was pointing to the fact that we're continuously seeing women and the youth shying away from agribusiness. And like you rightly mentioned earlier on, they're leaning more towards farming for subsistence as opposed to farming for just to make a business out of it. And one of the main pointers that they mentioned is also mindset. There's so much going on. I would like to hear your input on that, and maybe some advice on how this trend can be reversed so that women and youth look more to like the monetary value away from growing food just for, home consumption.
Thank you, Ingrid. And you're right. You're right. A lot of women and youth also shy from agribusiness. And I think there are very many perception biases that need to be corrected. So, first of all, there's lack of information around opportunities in agribusiness. You know, there are so many opportunities around value chains of different products that or varieties of products that they may be interested in. First of all, agribusiness is not farming only. There are so many things. You can engage in transport, you can engage in packaging, you can be an educator in the value chain, you can provide extension services. So first and foremost, information. I think that needs to be promoted so that people do understand what is the opportunity, you know, where can you, and where they can plug, where they can play. And then secondly, one other reason why I think people shy away is because the value chains sometimes are underperforming. You know, they have had that farmers don't make money, which is true. There are very, very many challenges. Domestic markets, some of them have attempted to get into the domestic markets and they've had their fingers burnt because it's not very easy to get into the export markets. There are quality issues. You have to understand foreign exchange. So that is what sometimes prevents them or makes them a bit shy, and not forgetting infrastructure. Like I said, you can grow your produce, but how do you get it to Nairobi? How do you get it to Eldoret and to Kisii? There are a lot of market issues that need to be corrected. So there have been systemic issues around it, and the sad news is that people talk about the bad things and not necessarily the positive gains. The truth is that there are people who are really making money out of agribusiness. We have some millionaires, others are billionaires. So we just need to keep on showcasing these stories. So how can we showcase this? I mean, or how can we reverse the trend? I think one is by improving information, access to information. It's not just about farming. You know, farming is a business. You can make agriculture your business, and there's gain in doing that. The second thing is to make it attractive. Unfortunately, agribusiness is still not attractive, particularly to the youth. So we need to automate agribusiness. We need to digitize the value chain. Yes, the value chain. We also need to improve on mechanization, you know, make it an easier, you know, way to do it, like they undertake agriculture activities in the Western world. Provide more case studies. Let's talk about these success stories. And I think, Ingrid, you need to be featuring women who are doing well in agriculture. We've got quite a number of them, so we can offer more and more stories, you know, to show and to tell, and more incentives. But more importantly is people just need to get into networks like Invest in Africa and like Awan that offer more support, mentorship, and provide information for potential agribusiness entrepreneurs. So today we are talking about agripreneurs. So you don't really have to be a farmer. You don't even have to have the knowledge. Just understand the value chain and you'll make money.
Wangeshi, I have to agree with you 100%. Even us guys in the media, we have a role to play when it comes to highlighting success stories so that next woman can know that if this woman has done it, then I can do it too. However, now I have to bring us to the initiative by Invest in Africa and Awan. I know right now you're in the thick of, you know, just supporting women in agribusiness. Without preempting too much, I'll let you take us through the initiative, what you're doing for women in agribusiness, and who qualifies and how can they tap into it.
Oh, great. So one is that I did mention that agriculture is a leading contributor to employment in Africa. And our coming together is geared towards that, promoting job creation and creating opportunities around agriculture so that women and youth can get decent employment. So the recent partnership that we got into with Awan is aimed at accelerating trade, just enhancing the competitiveness of women in agribusiness, and it aims at supporting the women and youth businesses in Kenya. So one of the challenges I had outlined is information. People don't have information. There's a problem with accessing markets. So this partnership is aimed at closing the access to market gap. There are so many opportunities out there by corporate sector, by the public sector, within the markets. Now we are talking about the intra-Africa continental free trade area. We want our women and our businesses to get their products out there and start doing trade with Egypt. Sell your products in Ghana, but without being in a network or without a focused initiative that is helping, these farmers or these people in agribusiness, it's going to be a tall order. So one of the issues we are also trying to address here is capacity building that is targeted towards addressing the skills gaps. A lot of farmers need to understand quality. They need to understand how to play in trade within, the context of Africa. So we are looking at improving access to finance and addressing some of those pain points. Invest in Africa's strength lies in relationships with corporates. We focus on unlocking opportunities from corporates to SMEs. So one of the areas that we are going to strengthen and collaborate through this partnership is increased opportunities through offtake partnerships from organizations that we partner with. In particular, we are currently looking for women and we are looking for youth to farm in sunflower, because Bidco Africa, who is our partner, have signed up with us to offtake opportunities for sunflower seeds. And we're encouraging everyone to just participate. So those are some of the activities that we are trying to drive, and together we aim to impact 1 million women. So we are looking at really accelerating growth by addressing those challenges and then including women in supply chains. That has been a big problem, getting women integrated in supply chains of corporates, of large organizations. So part of our partnership activity is just around that. And we are just saying that Africa is ready to trade with Africa. So it's time to start showcasing our women, profiling these businesses, categorizing them, supporting their compliance, and getting them ready for trade.
Like that. But now, again, Wangeshi, yes. How do I qualify for this? How do I take advantage? How do I make sure I really reap the best from this amazing initiative?
So, number one, if you're out there and you're in agribusiness, you could be in farming, maybe you're an aggregator, you could be a trainer, you are a processor, an exporter, you are welcome. Just log on to www.biashara.now.com. On our platform, there is a hub for farmers. There is Wakulima Hub. Another way is to contact Our Africa on their website. There are details on how you can join. We are now in the world of collaboration and sharing resources. So we are registering anyone who is in the business of agriculture to first of all join. Just give us your email address. We'll capture your details. And after that, our team will show you what else you need to do to be able to participate. But the first step is to register, join the movement. We are looking for 1 million women. It's a tall order, and this is what we are going to use to leverage on our relationships to get private sector adopting more and more inclusion on their supply chains. And there's no payment.
I see no reason. I should as to why women should not really reach out and grow themselves, because they're already doing amazing things when it comes to the agricultural sector and just contributing to the value chain. As always, it's always such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your valuable insights. That's where we wrap it up today. Money, but you can keep the conversation going on our social media pages at Metropole TV KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And you can also just follow the conversation on our SMS lines at 20146. I've been your host, Ingrid Nantege. Enjoy the rest of our programming.